In a bustling city, there was a beautiful restaurant that catered to wealthy guests. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. The restaurant was known for its fine dining and top-notch service, attracting people with deep pockets. Among the staff was a dedicated waitress who took great pride in her work. She loved her job and put her heart into every table she served. Every day, she greeted guests with a warm smile and did her best to make their dining experience enjoyable. She knew the menu inside and out, recommending dishes with confidence. Despite the elegance surrounding her, life wasn't always easy. As a black waitress in a predominantly white restaurant, she sometimes felt the weight of discrimination, even when customers seemed polite. She had learned to push through, reminding herself that she was there to do a job and support her family. One busy evening, a group of wealthy patrons entered the restaurant. They were loud and boisterous, making a grand entrance that turned heads. As they were seated at a prime table, the waitress approached them, ready to take their orders. She noticed immediately that they were not like other guests. Their conversations were filled with arrogance, and they looked at her as if she was less than human. As she took their drink orders, they started making jokes at her expense, laughing as if it were all in good fun. She felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she forced a smile and kept her composure. The situation felt unbearable, yet she continued to serve them. The millionaires had no idea of the toll their words were taking on her. She had heard comments like theirs before, but it never got easier. The longer she worked at their table, the more disrespectful they became. They made rude demands, expecting her to jump at their beck and call. At one point, one of them even commented on her hair, making a joke that cut deeper than any knife. It was a humiliating moment, and her heart sank. She could feel the weight of their contempt pressing down on her. It was like a spotlight had been turned on her, revealing her insecurities in front of everyone. Feeling overwhelmed, she excused herself and slipped into the kitchen. There, away from the eyes of the millionaires, she let the tears fall. This wasn't just a job for her. It was a means to provide for her family, and yet here she was, feeling small and worthless. As she stood there, she heard her coworkers encouraging one another, reminding each other of their worth. Their words sparked something in her. In that moment, she realized she couldn't let this incident define her. She wanted to take back her power, to turn her pain into something positive. After gathering her thoughts, she decided she would share her story. It was time to speak up about the humiliation she faced, not just for herself, but for all those who had been mistreated. She felt a surge of determination. With each passing moment, her resolve grew stronger. This was more than a personal struggle. It was about creating awareness and demanding respect for herself and others. As she dried her tears and prepared to return to work, she knew this was not the end of her story. It was only the beginning of a journey she never expected to take. She was ready to face the world again, armed with a newfound strength and a purpose that would change everything. After taking a deep breath, the waitress returned to the dining area, her heart racing. She felt a mix of fear and determination. The millionaires were still seated at their table, laughing and joking among themselves, completely unaware of the impact their words had on her. She approached them again, her posture a little straighter and her smile a bit more confident. It was time to reclaim her dignity. As she delivered their meals, she focused on providing the best service she could. Each time she made eye contact with them, she remembered her purpose: to take care of her family and show the world that she was more than just their waitress. Despite their earlier comments, she resolved to treat them with respect, hoping to demonstrate that she deserved it in return. But as the evening went on, the millionaires continued their disrespectful behavior. They made snide remarks and joked amongst themselves, their laughter ringing in her ears. At one point, one of them called her over to their table to criticize her service, claiming she hadn't filled their water glasses fast enough. The way they spoke to her was condescending, as if she were beneath them. It was infuriating, and for a moment, she felt the familiar sting of humiliation wash over her. Yet, in that moment of frustration, she remembered her decision to stand up for herself. She took a deep breath and gathered her thoughts. Instead of feeling defeated, she decided to speak up. "I'm sorry if I didn't meet your expectations," she said firmly, looking them in the eyes. "I strive to give every guest my best service, but I'm also a human being and deserve to be treated with respect." The table fell silent, and the millionaires looked at her in surprise. They clearly hadn't expected her to respond that way. For the first time, they seemed to realize that she was not just a waitress. She was a person with feelings. There was a brief moment of tension, but it quickly shifted as they started to murmur amongst themselves. The waitress stood tall, feeling a surge of pride within her. With her heart racing, she walked away from the table, knowing she had done the right thing. She felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulders. As she continued to serve other tables, her confidence began to grow. Guests started to notice the change in her demeanor and responded positively to her service. They complimented her professionalism, and some even praised her bravery when they heard what had happened. As the night wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of something significant. She decided to take action beyond just her own experience. When she returned home after her shift, she turned on her computer and began to write. She poured her heart into a social media post, sharing the details of her night. She described the humiliation she faced, but also highlighted her decision to stand up for herself. She wanted others to know that they weren't alone and that it was okay to speak out against disrespect. To her surprise, the response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life began to comment and share her story. Many expressed their support, sharing their own experiences with discrimination and mistreatment. The waitress realized that she had tapped into something much larger than her own situation. She had ignited a conversation about respect and equality in the workplace. Encouraged by the outpouring of support, she decided to take her message further. She reached out to local advocacy groups and shared her story, hoping to bring attention to the treatment of service workers. The more she spoke out, the more empowered she felt. She began to see herself not just as a waitress, but as a voice for change. This journey was far from over, and she was ready to fight for herself and others. With the support pouring in from her online community, the waitress felt a newfound sense of purpose. The responses to her post gave her hope and fueled her determination to continue advocating for herself and others like her. She spent the next few days reflecting on her experience and thinking about how she could turn her pain into action. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that this was not just about her, but about the countless service workers who faced similar situations every day. Inspired, she reached out to a local community center that focused on worker rights and empowerment. She explained her story and expressed her desire to get involved. They welcomed her with open arms and invited her to join an upcoming meeting to discuss strategies for raising awareness about discrimination in the service industry. The thought of speaking in front of a group made her nervous, but she knew this was an opportunity to make a difference. On the day of the meeting, she walked into the community center, her heart pounding. The room was filled with passionate individuals who were also eager to create change. As she shared her story, she noticed the understanding and empathy in the faces around her. It felt good to be surrounded by people who shared her experiences and frustrations. They discussed the importance of speaking up and how to create safe spaces for workers to voice their concerns. After the meeting, the group decided to plan an event to raise awareness about discrimination in the workplace. They wanted to create a platform where workers could share their stories and experiences openly. The waitress was excited and volunteered to help organize the event. She felt empowered, knowing that she was no longer alone in her fight. Together, they brainstormed ideas and reached out to local businesses for support. As the event date approached, the waitress dedicated her evenings to preparing. She reached out to others in the service industry, inviting them to join the conversation. She shared flyers on social media, encouraging people to come and share their stories. It was incredible to see how quickly word spread. More and more people signed up to attend, and she could feel the excitement building. On the day of the event, the community center buzzed with energy. The room was filled with people from various backgrounds, all there to share their experiences and listen to one another. The waitress stood at the front, ready to speak. Her heart raced, but she reminded herself why she was there. This was about creating a change that would benefit everyone. As she took the microphone, she looked out at the crowd. She felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She began to share her story, explaining the humiliation she faced and the importance of standing up against discrimination. The audience listened intently, some nodding in agreement as they related to her experience. One by one, others began to share their stories. There were tales of disrespect, humiliation, and resilience. Each story added to the growing momentum in the room. People spoke about their struggles and how they found the courage to stand up for themselves. As the stories unfolded, the atmosphere shifted. It became clear that they were not just sharing experiences. They were building a community of support. By the end of the event, there was a palpable sense of hope in the room. Everyone felt empowered, knowing they were not alone in their fight. The waitress felt a deep sense of pride in what they had accomplished together. This was just the beginning. They discussed plans to continue meeting, support each other, and push for change within the industry. Leaving the event, she felt lighter and more connected to her purpose. This journey had transformed her from a silent observer into a powerful advocate for herself and others. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. Together, they could make a difference and create a safer, more respectful environment for everyone in the service industry. After the successful event at the community center, the waitress felt a new energy coursing through her. She had never imagined that speaking up would lead to such a strong sense of community. As she returned to work at the restaurant, she carried that energy with her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. However, the atmosphere at the restaurant had not changed. The millionaires who had humiliated her were still regular customers, and she had to face them again. As they arrived one evening, her heart raced. Memories of their rude comments flooded back, but she reminded herself of her strength and the support she had received from her community. This time, she would not let their behavior get to her. As she served them, she noticed their attitude had shifted slightly. They were still arrogant, but perhaps they felt the weight of her previous confrontation. She held her head high and treated them with the same professionalism she extended to every guest. Although it was difficult, she focused on her job, reminding herself that she was there to serve, not to be insulted. As the days passed, she continued to receive messages of encouragement from her online community. People shared their stories of similar experiences and offered words of support. Some even reached out to invite her to speak at other events. She was amazed by how many people were willing to stand up against discrimination and share their journeys. It fueled her passion even more. One day, while on her break, she met a fellow waitress who worked at a different restaurant. They began talking about the challenges they faced in their jobs. This new friend shared her own stories of disrespect and the ways she had learned to cope. The two bonded over their shared experiences and the importance of standing together. They exchanged contact information, and soon they were planning to meet regularly to discuss their ideas for advocating for change. As their friendship grew, they decided to create a small support group for service workers in their area. They wanted to provide a safe space for others to share their experiences, seek advice, and feel empowered. They reached out to local workers through social media, inviting anyone interested to join them for a casual meetup. The response was positive, and soon they had a group of enthusiastic individuals ready to make their voices heard. At their first gathering, the energy in the room was electric. They shared their stories, and everyone felt heard and understood. It was a powerful moment for each of them. Together, they brainstormed ways to raise awareness in the community and discussed the importance of treating service workers with respect. They realized that by sharing their experiences, they could inspire others to stand up for themselves as well. As weeks turned into months, their support group grew. They organized events, invited guest speakers, and collaborated with local businesses to promote positive change. Their voices began to reach a wider audience, and people started to notice. More customers began to show their support by treating the workers with kindness and respect. It was heartwarming to see how their efforts were making a difference. But the most rewarding part for the waitress was the friendships she had formed. She had connected with so many individuals who shared her passion for creating a better work environment. They laughed together, cried together, and celebrated their small victories as they worked toward a common goal. One evening, as she reflected on her journey, she realized how far she had come. She had transformed from a silent waitress into a confident advocate for herself and others. No longer did she feel like a victim of humiliation. She was now a part of a movement dedicated to change. With each passing day, her determination grew stronger. She knew that while challenges still lay ahead, she was ready to face them head-on, armed with the knowledge that she was not alone. Together, they were making a difference, one story at a time, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held for all of them. As the waitress continued her journey of advocacy, she felt a sense of purpose guiding her. The support group she had formed with her friend was thriving, and they had managed to attract a diverse crowd of service workers eager to share their experiences. Each meeting became a safe haven for those who felt unheard or overlooked in their workplaces. At their gatherings, the stories flowed freely. Some shared tales of rude customers, while others spoke of supportive bosses who stood by them during tough times. Each story carried its own weight, and together, they painted a vivid picture of the challenges faced by service workers. As they listened to one another, they began to realize that their experiences were connected, and they were part of something bigger than themselves. Encouraged by the success of their meetings, they decided to take things a step further. They wanted to create an event that would not only raise awareness, but also celebrate the hard work of service workers in their community. They planned a day dedicated to honoring the contributions of those in the industry. This would be a time to recognize the dedication, resilience, and importance of every individual who worked tirelessly to provide excellent service. They reached out to local businesses and asked for their support. To their delight, many were willing to contribute, understanding the value of a healthy work environment. Restaurants, cafes, and even shops offered discounts and prizes for a raffle they planned to hold. The community began to rally around the event, excited to show their appreciation for the hard work of service staff. As the day of the event approached, the anticipation grew. Flyers were posted around town, and social media buzzed with excitement. The waitress and her friends worked tirelessly to prepare for the big day. They set up booths, organized entertainment, and coordinated with local musicians to perform. The atmosphere was filled with enthusiasm as they envisioned a day of fun, camaraderie, and empowerment. On the day of the event, the sun shone brightly, creating the perfect backdrop for their celebration. People gathered in the park, filling it with laughter and joy. The waitress felt a wave of pride wash over her as she watched everyone come together. Workers from different backgrounds mingled, sharing stories and forming new friendships. It was a beautiful sight to see so many people united by a common cause. The event kicked off with speeches from local leaders and advocates who recognized the contributions of service workers. The waitress took the stage, her heart racing with excitement. She spoke passionately about the importance of respect and the need for change in the industry. As she looked out into the crowd, she could see the impact her words were having. People nodded in agreement, and some even wiped away tears as they felt understood for the first time. After the speeches, the festivities began. There were games, food stalls, and live music that created an inviting atmosphere. The sense of community was palpable as people danced and celebrated together. The waitress and her friends organized activities that highlighted the skills and talents of service workers, showcasing their hard work in a fun way. Throughout the day, stories were shared and connections were made. The waitress felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she witnessed the joy on people's faces. She realized that this event was more than just a celebration. It was a movement towards change. As the sun began to set, the waitress stood back and took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. From her initial feelings of humiliation to leading an event that empowered so many, it was a remarkable transformation. She understood that change takes time, but this day marked a significant step in the right direction. With renewed hope and determination, she knew they would continue to advocate for respect and equality in the service industry. The friendships forged that day and the stories shared would linger on, inspiring even more people to stand up for their rights. She felt grateful to be part of a community that believed in change, and she was excited for what the future held for them all. After the success of the event, the waitress felt a spark of excitement in her heart. The day had been a powerful reminder of what could be achieved when people come together for a common cause. She and her friends received numerous messages of gratitude from attendees, thanking them for creating a space where their voices could be heard. It filled her with pride to know that they had made a difference in the community. In the weeks following the event, the waitress noticed a shift not only in her own perspective, but also in the attitudes of people around her. Customers at the restaurant began to show more respect and kindness towards the staff. It was as if the event had opened people's eyes to the hard work that goes into providing great service. She felt a renewed sense of hope that perhaps the culture in the service industry could change for the better. Buoyed by this positive momentum, she and her friends decided to keep the spirit of advocacy alive. They began holding regular meetings to discuss how they could continue to raise awareness and support for service workers. They talked about the importance of self-care and mental health, recognizing that the stress of the job often took a toll on their well-being. They wanted to create a culture of support, not just during difficult times, but always. One evening, during a meeting, one of her friends suggested organizing workshops focused on building skills. The idea was to provide training that would not only help with their current jobs, but also prepare them for future opportunities. The waitress loved this idea and jumped in to help coordinate. They reached out to local businesses and organizations, asking if they would be willing to donate their time or resources for the workshops. To their delight, several local professionals stepped forward, eager to share their expertise. Chefs offered cooking classes, while financial advisors agreed to hold sessions on managing money. There were even opportunities for resume building and interview preparation. The waitress and her friends were thrilled. This was a chance to empower the community further. As the workshops began, the atmosphere was filled with excitement and determination. The waitress took part in every session, eager to learn and grow alongside her fellow workers. Each workshop brought new skills and insights, helping them to feel more confident in their roles. It was a wonderful experience to see others flourish, and the sense of camaraderie deepened as they learned together. During one of the cooking classes, the waitress had a moment of inspiration. She realized that they could also showcase their skills in the community by hosting a pop-up dinner. This event would not only highlight the talents of service workers, but also bring the community together for a night of great food and connection. Her idea quickly gained traction, and everyone eagerly began planning the pop-up dinner. They decided to create a menu that featured dishes representing the diverse backgrounds of the workers involved. Each dish would tell a story, celebrating their cultures and the hard work that went into preparing the food. The waitress felt a sense of pride as she collaborated with her friends to craft the menu, each plate representing a piece of their collective experiences. As the date of the pop-up dinner approached, excitement filled the air. They set up the venue, decorated it with colorful lights, and arranged tables for the guests. The energy was electric as they prepared for the big night. The waitress felt a mixture of nerves and joy, knowing that this was another opportunity to showcase their talent and hard work. When the night finally arrived, the restaurant buzzed with people eager to taste the delicious dishes. Each plate was a work of art, and the guests were amazed by the flavors and stories behind the food. As the waitress moved from table to table, she felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. The connections being made and the appreciation being shown to her and her friends were beyond what she had hoped for. As the evening unfolded, she realized that their efforts had not only brought people together through food, but had also sparked conversations about respect and equality in the service industry. The waitress knew that this was just one more step in their ongoing journey. With every meal served and every story shared, they were changing the narrative and paving the way for a brighter future for all service workers. The night of the pop-up dinner turned out to be a remarkable success. Guests filled the space, their laughter and chatter creating a warm, inviting atmosphere. The waitress felt a sense of joy as she watched everyone enjoy the food that represented not just their skills, but also their cultures and stories. It was more than just a dinner. It was a celebration of community and resilience. As the evening progressed, people began to share their thoughts about the dishes they were tasting. Many complimented the flavors and the creativity behind the menu. Some even asked about the stories behind each dish, eager to connect with the experiences of the workers who had prepared them. The waitress was thrilled to see the conversations blossoming. She moved from table to table, sharing the inspiration behind each meal and highlighting the hard work that went into making the evening possible. One guest stood up to give a heartfelt speech, thanking the team for the wonderful evening. They spoke about how important it was to support local workers and recognize their contributions. The words resonated with everyone in the room, and applause erupted in appreciation. The waitress felt a swell of pride. This was exactly the kind of support and acknowledgement they had been hoping for. As the night came to a close, the group gathered to reflect on the success of the event. Everyone was buzzing with excitement and gratitude. They talked about the possibility of making the pop-up dinner an annual event, a tradition that could continue to highlight the talents of service workers in their community. The waitress loved this idea. It meant more opportunities for connection and support. In the weeks that followed, the waitress and her friends worked tirelessly to plan the next pop-up dinner. They wanted to build on the momentum they had created, and they started brainstorming ideas for even more creative dishes and themes. They also decided to invite some local influencers to help spread the word and attract a larger crowd. The thought of reaching even more people filled them with enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the waitress continued to face challenges at the restaurant. Although customers were generally kinder, there were still instances where she encountered disrespectful behavior. One evening, a customer made a rude comment about her service. It stung, and for a moment, she felt the familiar wave of frustration wash over her. But she quickly reminded herself of the progress she had made and the community she had built. Instead of letting it get to her, she took a deep breath and handled the situation with grace. She approached the customer calmly and asked how she could improve their experience. The surprise on their face showed that they hadn't expected such a respectful response. This time, instead of retaliating, she chose to rise above the negativity. The encounter reminded her of her growth and how far she had come. With the next pop-up dinner approaching, the waitress felt motivated to keep pushing forward. She shared her experiences with her support group, and they talked about strategies for dealing with difficult customers. They reinforced the importance of self-care and finding strength in their community. Each person shared their own stories of resilience, creating an atmosphere of support and understanding. On the day of the next pop-up dinner, the excitement was palpable. The team worked together seamlessly, each person taking pride in their role. The menu was diverse, featuring dishes that reflected not just their backgrounds, but also the lessons they had learned along the way. As guests arrived, they were greeted with smiles and warmth. The room buzzed with conversation and laughter, and the waitress felt a sense of belonging that she had longed for. This was not just a job anymore, it was a movement. Throughout the night, they served not just food, but also hope. They reminded each other that they were part of something bigger, a community that valued respect and dignity for all. As the evening drew to a close, the waitress knew that they were creating a lasting impact, one dinner at a time. Together, they were changing the narrative and paving the way for a brighter future for all service workers. As the second pop-up dinner wrapped up, the energy in the room was still buzzing. Guests lingered, chatting, and enjoying the last bites of delicious food. The waitress looked around, taking in the smiles and laughter. She felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. This evening had been a testament to the hard work and dedication of everyone involved, and she couldn't help but feel proud of what they had built together. After the last guests left, the team gathered to celebrate their success. They shared high fives and hugs, each one filled with gratitude for the collective effort that had made the night special. The waitress spoke up, expressing how much this community meant to her. She shared her feelings of growth, not just as a waitress, but as someone who was part of something greater. The support they had all shown one another was inspiring. The group decided that they wanted to continue this momentum. They began brainstorming ideas for future events, hoping to reach more people and continue raising awareness about the challenges faced by service workers. Some suggested hosting a series of themed dinners, while others proposed cooking classes where guests could learn how to make the dishes they had enjoyed. The excitement was palpable as they tossed ideas around, each suggestion more creative than the last. Eventually, they settled on hosting a cooking class that would be open to the community. It would be a chance for people to come together, learn, and bond over food. They believed that teaching others about their cooking skills would further highlight the importance of service workers and their contributions. The waitress felt energized by the idea and jumped into planning the details. They decided to feature a different dish each week, allowing participants to explore various cuisines from around the world. The group created promotional materials to share on social media, inviting everyone to join them for a fun and educational experience. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many people eager to sign up. It felt good to see the community rally around their efforts once again. As the first cooking class approached, the waitress felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She wanted everything to go smoothly, and she was determined to provide a wonderful experience for everyone involved. On the day of the class, she arrived early to help set up the kitchen. She was joined by her friends, who were just as eager to make the event a success. When the participants started to arrive, the atmosphere filled with chatter and laughter. The waitress welcomed everyone with a big smile, and she could see the excitement on their faces. She knew this was going to be a special evening. After a brief introduction, they all gathered around the kitchen, ready to learn how to cook a traditional dish that had personal meaning to many of them. As they cooked, the waitress shared stories about her own experiences in the service industry, explaining the significance of the dish they were making. Participants listened intently, and their questions flowed as they chopped vegetables and stirred sauces. The cooking class became not only a lesson in culinary skills, but also a platform for sharing personal stories and experiences. By the end of the class, everyone sat down to enjoy the meal they had prepared together. The food was delicious, and the laughter echoed around the table. It felt like a celebration, with each person contributing to the meal and the conversations. The waitress felt a deep sense of belonging and fulfillment. This was exactly what she had hoped for: a community coming together to learn, share, and enjoy one another's company. After dinner, many participants expressed interest in joining the support group or participating in future events. The waitress felt her heart swell with hope. It was clear that they were making a difference, not only in their own lives, but also in the lives of others. She knew they were building something meaningful, and she couldn't wait to see where this journey would take them next. As the night came to an end, she reflected on how far she had come since that difficult day in the restaurant. She had transformed her pain into purpose, and through her experiences, she was now helping others find their own voices. With a renewed sense of determination, she looked forward to the future, knowing that together they could continue to inspire change and create a brighter path for service workers everywhere. As the weeks passed, the cooking classes became a beloved tradition in the community. Each session attracted more participants, and soon the wait list grew longer. The waitress felt a sense of pride as she watched people come together to learn and share their stories. It wasn't just about cooking. It was about building connections and fostering a sense of belonging. With the success of the cooking classes, the waitress and her friends decided to organize a community potluck. They envisioned it as a way for everyone to bring a dish from their own culture to share with others. It would be a celebration of diversity, where everyone could showcase their culinary skills and learn about different traditions. The idea sparked excitement among the community, and many eagerly signed up to participate. As the day of the potluck approached, the waitress felt a wave of anticipation. She loved the idea of everyone coming together to celebrate their unique backgrounds. On the day of the event, she arrived early to help set up tables and decorations in the park. Colorful banners and lights created a festive atmosphere, and she could already smell the delicious aromas wafting through the air as people began to arrive. Families brought dishes that represented their cultures, from savory stews to sweet desserts. The variety of flavors was incredible, and the waitress couldn't wait to taste everything. As guests began to gather, the atmosphere filled with laughter and conversations. It was heartwarming to see people connecting over food, sharing stories about their dishes, and bonding over their shared experiences. Once everyone was settled, the waitress welcomed everyone and expressed her gratitude for their participation. She explained the importance of community and how food has a unique way of bringing people together. After her brief introduction, the potluck officially began. The first few guests stepped up to share their dishes, explaining the significance of each recipe. The stories behind the food made each dish feel even more special, and the guests listened with interest. As the potluck continued, people mingled, tasting dishes and exchanging recipes. The waitress moved through the crowd, sampling the various offerings and engaging in conversations. Each person she spoke to shared their own experiences in the service industry, some touching on the challenges they faced while others spoke about the joys of their work. It was a beautiful exchange, one that strengthened their sense of community. Later in the afternoon, they organized fun games and activities for families and children. Everyone joined in on the laughter as they participated in sack races and tug-of-war contests. The sense of joy was infectious, and the waitress felt grateful to be part of such a supportive and uplifting community. She was reminded of how far they had come, and how much they had all grown together. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, the waitress gathered everyone for a group photo. It was a moment of unity, capturing the essence of what they had built together. Each smiling face reflected the connections they had forged through shared experiences and a common goal of fostering respect and appreciation for service workers. As the potluck came to a close, the waitress felt a mixture of fulfillment and excitement. This event was not just a gathering. It was a step towards a more inclusive community where everyone felt valued. She realized that by creating spaces for dialogue and connection, they were fostering a culture of respect that would have a lasting impact. In the following days, the feedback poured in. Participants expressed their gratitude for the potluck and how much they enjoyed the sense of community it provided. Many said it was refreshing to see people from different backgrounds come together and celebrate their differences. With renewed determination, the waitress and her friends began planning their next event. They wanted to keep the momentum going, to continue creating opportunities for connection and empowerment. They knew that they were not just changing their own lives, but also inspiring others to stand up for respect and recognition in the service industry. As she lay in bed that night, the waitress reflected on her journey. From feeling humiliated to leading a movement that brought people together, it was incredible to see how much had changed. She felt hopeful about the future, knowing that together, they could continue to inspire change and create a brighter, more respectful environment for service workers everywhere.